Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking the truth to power. Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking the truth to power. Truth to power. Truth to power. Wait a minute. We're speaking the truth to power. Truth. Myself. Information, and lions. Welcome. Truth to power.
This is Information Man and Lion's Den. Welcome. Yes, information is power. We're here. It's late, but we're going to do this thing. We're going to do it right. I'm Information Man. I got my man. Let everybody know who you are out there, Lion's Den.
Roar on your radio is Lion's Den from the East Coast.
You're representing, huh? That's good, brother. So tonight we've got a lot that we want to get into. As you know, everybody out there, if you've been following the news, as it relates to Sacramento, California, we have a situation here in Sacramento, in the Sacramento area. A black male, Stephon Clark was his name, because the brother is deceased. Mm-hmm. He was shot by police. Apparently, they thought he was a prowler. Apparently, there's reports that he was breaking windows. Apparently, they thought he was sneaking in houses. There's all sort of different narratives to this whole situation. But in the end, and the by, it's another situation in which a black man, you know what, folks? Let me just go ahead and let you hear the audio, as it is very explosive.
Shots fired, stay down. Show your hands! See your hands! 570 down, no movement. We're going to need additional units. Come in from the west to east of the yard. Let's see your hands! You alright? You hit? Yeah, I'm good. All right. You're still pointing when I saw you. You alright? Yeah, I'm alright. Don't get hit or anything. I got on the gunpoint, dude. You want to? Which one? Tactical reload, okay? Alright, copy. I think I shot about 5 times. Stand by. Stand by on that. He's still down. He's not moving. We can't see the gun. You good? Yeah, I'm good. All right, I'm gonna reload. All right, go. I got you. Go. You got one on him? Got him. Negative. Neither one of us are hit. We're okay. Suspect's down. Good. Good? Yep. All right.
In a backyard. Officers, they saw Clark pick up a toolbar to break a window in the residence. And allegedly ran towards the front of his house looking into another car. Helicopter guided the officers to where Clark was in the rear of a residence, which, by the way, turned out to be his own backyard. Officers said they approached Clark, commands to stop, hands. According to the initial news release, allegedly ran towards the backyard of the home away from the police, pursuing allegedly towards them and advancing them, putting an object extended in front of him, saying that the object was a gun. Fearing for their lives, the officers shot the young man in the backyard multiple times. According to the Sacramento Bee, the newspaper, reporter said the officers fired at Clark 20 times. Department personnel pronounced him dead at the scene. Updated press release. Now they're getting ready to update it. The Sacramento Police Department said that there was no firearm at the scene of the shooting. Contrary, officers thought when they shot him 20 times, and they found was a cell phone. Both officers were wearing body cameras. Their additional audio and video footage from the sheriff's helicopter. They've been placed on leave, paid leave, by the way. This reporter wrote, "Isn't it weird? Shooting victims always running away from the police who have guns, suddenly change their minds, charging the police officers who have guns." So this young man, how old? 22. 22 years old, didn't have a gun, strained towards police, guns. He's going to shoot him. That's right. I mean, that's always, he ran towards us with his hands extended. Now, he doesn't, 22, it ain't a gun, it's a cell phone. Shooting.
Lion's Den, what is your opinion as to what you just heard? Now, in the first clip, it was very explosive. We heard exactly what our own ears, we heard the audio playback of the actual firing and shooting by Sacramento police. As Joe Madison stated in the report, they shot this young man about 20 times. He's 22 years old. Isn't that interesting? 22 years old, he gets shot 20 times. Okay? You heard the police in there saying there was no gun. You heard them say there was no gun. You heard them make the statement that there was no gun. Let me play that again.
Obviously, the copycat fear, which is...
That's the wrong audio. Sorry about that, folks. I took that audio clip off, but let me just say for the record, we heard him say, or the two cops make statements that there is no gun. They repeated that there was no gun. You hear them. You hear the one officer who did the shooting. He's breathing heavily. And I'm going to explain something to folks tonight, an article that I have from work. I work in an environment where I deal with people that are sort of what you would call in law enforcement. And I'm going to read a document telling you why cops get off when they shoot people, and in particular, when they shoot black males, they get off. There's such a thing in psychology, and I work in psychology, called the psychology of flight. Okay. When you can expect from your body, what can you expect from your body during a deadly force incident? This is what they use. They have psychologists that will go into court. They have psychologists that will go into court. Okay. Now, for everybody out there in speaker.com, there was some dead space right there. I'm sorry about that. I hit the proper button right now. I've got to still work on that using this tablet instead of the actual computer. But what I'm talking about, what you just heard in that footage again, for everybody out there listening, once again, you heard the footage of the police and their actual shooting and killing of one, that is Clark. Stephon Clark. Stephon Clark is his name. Stephon Clark. You hear the shooting. You hear the heavy breathing of the officer. You hear constantly the officer saying, add more rounds to your gun, reload your gun, because you hear them saying, hey, he's right there. You can hear them saying, oh, he's got something in his hand. It looks dark. Okay. This is what they use in the courtroom in these situations. Now you may say, what is this all about? Let me break it down to you. There's a thing called audio inclusion. Ears can play tricks on you. This is what they use to get these police off in court. So there's audio inclusion. There's vascular struction, which is the loss of fine motor skills. So the loss of fine motor skills are vascular construction. Okay, this is what they'll argue for police inside of these legal systems, which is why a lot of times these police get off, on top of the fact that there's no value on black life. Okay, you had, just as you had in the Texas bombing case, where you had black people of color that are melanated, they were killed. There really was no urgency as to why this happened. Then you have this despicable individual who ends up blowing himself up today, and the police kind of like were trying to capture him alive. But yet white men, when they go out and do terrorist attacks, because that was a terrorist attack, I will say it, the media doesn't have the guts to say what it is. It's a terrorist attack. And when white men go out and do terrorist attacks, they seem to survive, or they'll kill themselves, take their own life, but they always seem to either get captured. Let's talk about, like, for example, Ruth Dillon. Ruth Dillon killed 9 black people in a South Carolina church, and the police had the audacity to ask this despicable individual, did he want a Burger King? They got this man a Burger King. You had Ruth, now the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. You had Ruth Dillon's sister, who went in school with drugs, knives, and she had a gun, and she gets brought to court. They give her a $5,000 bail, but she stays alive, right? Going into school at a time like this when schools are being attacked, okay? And here you have a black man in Sacramento who is shot to death 20 times. You got all these cops. It takes all these cops to shoot one black man 20 times, and then they find out later on that the home that he was in, the backyard that he was in, was his backyard, because he lived with his parents, that he was trying to get into the house. Okay. There was reports that he was breaking windows. There's all these different conflicting reports. But one thing is for sure is that he did not have a gun. He put his hands up, sort of how I'm holding my hands, cell phone in hand, and they shot him to death. It almost reminds me of Amawina in New York, the brother who was going into his home, into his apartment, into his dwelling, and he was shot over 40 sometimes by the New York PD, okay, New York police. And they come to find out he had a wallet is what he pulled out. Remember, Orlando Castillo was shot in an open carry state, where he simply said to the police officer, I have a gun in the car. I have a license to carry it. And I also am going to get my license for you. And he got shot for that. Okay. And so when these police shoot us, they're using these terms, these auditorial inclusion, vascular construction, which is loss of fine motor skills. Audio inclusion is the ears can play tricks on you. Then you have tunnel vision. Okay. Line of sight, narrowing. Okay. So they're going to use that. And I'm going to read what these things mean. Then you've got expanded compression time, which is loss of time and perception. Okay. Visual tunnel vision. These are the words and the fancy gestures that I work in psychology. These are the words that they use when these cops go to court. And this is why these cops get off, because a psychologist will break down the physiology and response that we go through. It's called fight or flight. Okay. How adrenaline in your body affects your body. Okay. When you get that rush of adrenaline, it affects your body. And this is how these cops get off. This is how they get, as I would call, a ghetto pass when they kill us. And this is reality. Lions, then, with what I've said, brother, where do you want to take this tonight? What is your opinions? What are your thoughts about what happened to Thaddeus Clark?
Well, info, I saw the video twice. And when I saw this video, it really didn't show the body, or he didn't show Mr. Clark went towards the officer. It was really dark. You can't hardly see anything. All you heard was 20 plus gunshots. That's all you hear. And when you saying about that, it is remind you of Amadou Diallo, the guy that had the wallet in New York City that was shot 40 some times. To me, I see it like this, that they said that he had a crowbar that tried to break in people's cars and whatnot. And it turns out that he didn't have anything but a cell phone. And then he came back to the backyard of his grandparents' house, because that's where he was staying with it off and on with his grandparents' house. I find it ironic, info, that what is happening is that this young man shouldn't be killed, first of all, because obviously he didn't have a gun, he didn't have a weapon, all he had was a cell phone in his possession. That was it. But unfortunately, they said that the helicopter with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department had a helicopter chasing this young man down because he claimed he breaking in cars and stuff. But I find it ironic that one person that he is allegedly broken a house to, his name is 88-year-old Bill Wong. He himself said that he didn't hear no windows breaking, or all he heard was gunshots, and that was it, possibly by the Sacramento police. So, info, your thoughts?
My thoughts are, this to me, once again, is a situation in which you have another unarmed black man who, to me personally, because when you walk as a black man in American society, you're automatically seen as a threat. Okay, we are a threat. Mm-hmm. Okay, and there's a philosophy that I always use, and I don't care how many times I say it, I don't care who cares that I say it a lot. There is a system set up called cultural conditioning. Okay, in America, we are all culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior, black is inferior, and as a manifestation of that cultural conditioning, we will underestimate, undervalue, and marginalize black people. And we as black people, because we don't have a code that we play by anymore, we will stereotype and do it to ourselves. And then there's another situation that we must make very clear. What is the price of black life? How much is black life worth? Okay? Because I would say that it's worth very little. You had very little reporting about what happened to young Mason, the 17-year-old that was blown away in the despicable package bombing. Okay, then you had Brother House, you had the Latino sister who, by the grace of God, she survived and did not die. But there was only a small reporting about this young man, his brilliancy, his incredible music. He had a big time scholarship that he was looking forward to going to Texas to a competitive music program. And it seems like they gave it about 1 day, maybe a day and a half of reporting about this young man and the other victims. And you didn't hear much talk about it. And what that said to me, Lions Den, is that there really isn't any respect. There really isn't any love or give a damn for Black life. Okay. When it comes to the life of, for example, Caucasian people in this society, there seems to be a heightened awareness about what's happening to them. Just like with the opioid situation, white folks are hooked on these drugs. Now they're given a clinical name. So I don't really feel that. I feel that this young man got killed just because I believe that those police officers are culturally conditioned to believe that he was a monster and he was a threat. And this is another case like the Walter Scott case, where you have a Black man who really was running away from the police. They went towards him and shot him. And police are not taught. Let's just get this correct. I deal with people in law enforcement. Police are not trained to shoot people in the leg, in the arms, or to graze people. They are trained to shoot center mass. That is their training. Okay. The officers where I work at, the facility that I work at, they use center mass training. Okay. The environment that I work in, that's what they're trained to execute. They're not trained to execute, let me shoot this guy in the leg and not harm him. Now you would say, well, why didn't they use the stun gun? Well, they can make the argument that he was too far in distance for the stun gun. And what officers will always use as their go-to to get out of this situation is they'll say, I feared for my life. I saw what I thought was a weapon. Or they use the classic line, I saw him put his hand below his waist. These are the sort of ideology of policing that we have to understand, particularly as Black men, as Black people. Okay. If you put your hands below your waist, they're going to say, oh, you might be going for a gun. Those are the kind of words that they use. And so this is why Black conservatives like Larry Elder need to have cornbread and collard greens stuffed in his mouth so he can shut up. Because we did a YouTube about, Black conservatives being off code, and you had Lee Elders talking about racism and police brutality, and all these sort of situations are nothing but a figure of Black people's imagination, that we are past all of this, right? And Larry Elders, some Black conservatives like him will probably say, well, why didn't he just comply with the police? Why didn't he do exactly what they asked him to do? Guess what? When he stopped and put his hands up, sort of like Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, he got shot. And that's exactly what took place, folks.
It bothers to stop and think, now, wait a minute. This young man had a cell phone, unarmed, didn't have any gun. He's unarmed. Decided to towards policemen who are armed with their guns pointed at him. 6801-8255. And we're asked to believe that every time.
Yes, we are asked to believe that every time. We're asked to believe that when it comes to Black males in society, that they are automatically criminalized. Now, just like Trayvon Martin, just like Eric Garner, when black men are shot by cops, the narrative goes very smoothly like this. I thought he had a gun. I thought that he was threatening my life. My life felt threatened. And then after they come from that standpoint, now they'll start doing the systematically deconstructing the individual's character, where they'll get into destroying the individual's character. Lions Den, can you explain to everybody what they started saying or what they're already trying to create as their narrative about Mr. Thaddeus Clark?
Well, info, they already explaining, according to the Sacramento Bee, they already bring up his criminal past. For example, one of his criminal pasts that I found out that, according to Sacramento Bee, the court records also show a 2008 robbery charge and another charge in 2013 for possession of a firearm and possession of a controlled substance. You know, info, it's like every single time when an unarmed black men and women were murdered, they always bringing up their past. They always bringing up their criminal past, like, you know, like they're thugs or criminals. But info, just because it happened doesn't necessarily mean, what does this have to do with what happened to him now? What does this have to do with 2 Sacramento police officers open fire, killing a 22-year-old man 20 times? What does this have to do with that? So whatever he did in the past, he did in the past. But at the end of the day, you still kill an unarmed man with a cell phone in his hand. You're killing an unarmed black man who basically just going to his grandmother's house, just come to his grandmother's house in his backyard, and you kill him unarmed and then even one of the officers even said he doesn't have a gun. So, info, this is just going to show that every case you look at, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, John Crawford III, Elton Sterling, Sandra Bland, Oscar Grant, Sean Bell, Fernando Castillo, the list goes on and on and on. All these cases, and already bringing up their past, of their criminal past, which have nothing to do with what happened to them.
Lions Den, let me stop you, brother. I hear you talking, but you're fading, brother. I don't know what's going on with your audio, brother. Your voice is sort of fading, and I'm very concerned. I want folks to be able to hear what you're saying. So,
okay, can you
hear
me?
Headset that you're using? Are you using what we used the last time we did our last show? Are you using the same setup as before? Because if you did something different, that's probably why your sound is very mono, very low.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, you got to speak up, brother, because people need to hear what you're saying. You're saying very important. You're making very important points. So I want you to repeat a little bit of what you said so folks can really hear again, because I got a break-in clip that my man Charlie, who was supposed to be on with us tonight in this hangout, has just sent me. And because he just sent it to me now, I didn't have time to put it in the system. So I'm going to play it straight out of my phone. But repeat a little bit of what you said and project your voice, because you were kind of fading down, brother. You got to project. You got to project always. Go ahead. Go ahead and go back to what you were saying, brother.
Okay, my point is, info, that the cases that we're talking about, the Eric Gardners, the Mike Browns, the Laquan McDonald's, the Elton Sterlings, Sandra Bland, the Fernando Castillo, the list goes on and on, that so many unarmed black men and women been murdered by police, and they bring up their criminal past, and obviously that just had nothing to do with what happened to them now. My point is, info, that we need to understand that this man shouldn't have been killed in the first place. He just came to his grandparents' house. And so my point is that when is enough enough? When is enough enough? We lost so many unarmed black men and women already. And it's time to end this, info, because at the end of the day, we lost so many unarmed black men and women as it is. And yet another case of basically there's no weapon, there's no gun, but yet you shot this man 20 times. So, info, your thoughts.
My thoughts are, once again, there's no value on black life. You would ask yourself, when is this going to end? Now, I'm going to say this to the individuals out there that will look at this video and they will say, hey, stop playing the victim. Black folks keep playing the victim. I'm going to say this for those black conservatives or those black folks out there or folks listening who are going to say, well, you know, he was a criminal, what have you. I don't care what kind of crime. I don't care if he has a criminal background, if he might have committed some type of crime. I don't care. You know why I don't care? Because guess what? The people who run this country are the biggest criminals. Donald Trump is a criminal. His whole administration are criminals. I don't hear us bitching and moaning about him, okay? Everything in this society is criminality. The fact that we're in this country, we were stolen. Our ancestors were stolen from the continent of Africa. So white folks by default are criminals. We live in a society that's criminal. We travel to other countries that are run and operated by criminals. We have a so-called president who calls Vladimir Putin, congratulates him for winning his election when he's a criminal. We have a system in this country, a government and a system that is corrupt. Okay, so we're already living in a criminalized system. So therefore, I don't want to hear anybody focusing on, oh, well, he has some criminal that night. The bottom line is, no matter what his criminal background is, he didn't have to get shot and killed 20 times like that. Okay, because the police miscalculated. Okay, they missed everything that night. And this man was killed in his own damn backyard of his parents. Okay, now my man Charles just dropped a video clip on me, and I'm gonna play it, and it should be revealing. So let me play this. Hang on, folks. Let me get this. God. All right. I didn't mean to do that at all, what I just did. I'm trying to play what he. Here we go.
And I have to wake up every morning to my kids asking.
All right. I'm going to try to play it again. And here we go.
And I have to wake up every morning to my kids asking me, where's daddy? Let's go get daddy. And they have no clue. I just tell them, daddy's always going to be with us. Daddy's in our hearts, always and forever. He's always going to be with us. Don't forget that. And even today, like, my son doesn't understand, like, hearts and tummies and stuff like that. So he goes, daddy's with me. He's in my tummy. Like, yeah, daddy's with you, right, baby? He's always going to be with you.
So basically what you heard, I know the sound might have been fake. That is the wife or significant other of Brother Stephon Clark. The kids are already asking, where is daddy? Where is daddy? So the family is basically devastated. Lion's Den. They're hurting. They're in pain. These are the areas that they get overlooked. Okay.
Right.
Let me answer this right now. Brother, I'm on live right now. How you doing, Charles?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, bros?
All right, we're talking about. Hey, Charles, did you get your hangout? Did you get your hangout working, man?
I don't think so. I don't know if the feature's on there. I didn't see it on there, but it could be just me.
Do you have it on your phone?
I didn't see it on there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, brother, you could have downloaded it to your phone from the Google, from the Droid store. You could Google it. I mean, you could download it. then I could have had you on the Google tonight, but that's okay. We'll try to figure it out, man. Try to, if you can, try to download it to your phone quickly as soon as you can. Brother, I played a little bit of the audio that you sent me that had now explain to everybody out there listening, who is that young lady that we just played?
I believe her name is Stephanie Wang, and she's actually the girlfriend and the mother of 2 children. The brother that just got murdered by the SAC PD.
Okay, so she's the mother of the brother who got murdered by the SAC PD. Okay. Yeah. All right. They killed him. They killed that man. Can you tell us briefly, because I know you're at work right now, brother Charlie. Charlie is a brother from Sacramento who is an activist. He gets his feet on the ground, folks. He's out there. He's putting the work in to fight against oppression, injustice. Can you give us, Charlie, from your point of view, what is your opinion about what happened to this brother, Thaddeus Clark?
I don't have all the facts straight, but it sounds basically the traditional kind of low intensity warfare against, pretty much, the black male, the Latino male, and actually the Native American males too, because they actually get killed, believe it or not, even more than African Americans as far as the encounters with the police. But it's kind of a deliberate, kind of low intensity warfare, and I think it's mixed in with gentrification and other stuff that they're doing. It's kind of a new colonization coming out where they're no rent control. They're pricing people out. A lot of people that have homes don't own them; they're renting them, and they're kind of trying to get them out. It's not just in Sacramento, but you see it happen in Oakland also.
Well, so, let me stop you right there. I know for a fact you're absolutely right about that, Charlie. I think Oakland, California has dipped in its black population by 25%. And let's not even talk about San Francisco. There is no black people in San Francisco. The ones that are there, they're being pushed out. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's black people that live in San Francisco, but the population is dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And people are moving further and further out to the outskirts of the Bay Area because it's, as you know, everybody, California is one of the most expensive, and not the most expensive place to live. And so black people are really being impacted in this state economically, in terms of housing, job opportunities. As you got Trump bragging about how he's increased black unemployment, come on now, on the ground, you got black folks out here that are struggling, trying to make their way. But with that said, not to get too far off of course tonight, my man Lions Den and my man Charlie, I played some clips tonight, and I'm going to play it again by my man Joe Madison, and this is what he had to say. Let me let you hear this, and this will be good for everybody else to hear this again.
In a backyard, officers, they saw Clark pick up a toolbar to break a window in the residence, and allegedly ran towards the front of his house, looking into another car. Helicopter guided the officers to where Clark was in the rear of a residence, which, by the way, turned out to be his own backyard. Officers said they approached Clark, commands to stop, hands. According to the initial news release, allegedly ran towards the backyard of the home away from the police, pursuing, allegedly towards them and advancing them, putting an object extended in front of him, saying that the object was a gun. Fearing for their lives, the officers shot the young man backyard multiple times. According to the Sacramento Bee, the newspaper, order said the officers fired at Clark 20 times. Department personnel pronounced him dead at the scene.
I'm gonna stop it right there. Charlie, Lions Den, I'm gonna come back to you. Charlie, real briefly, brother, what are your opinions as to what you just heard? Now, let me paint the picture to you again. He was in the backyard of his own parents' home, in his own home where I guess he lived there, he visited there, whatever was going on. There was something going on where he was trying to get in the house, okay? To the police, he looked suspicious, okay? You know how that goes. Every black man looks suspicious. Hell, we don't even have to be going into someone's house. We don't even have to be breaking the windows down. You are suspicious just because you're a black man walking around this damn planet, okay? Which is a planet that belongs to us, okay? Okay, we are the original higher vibration type people, and we're getting back to it slowly. We're getting back to it slowly, but not to get off too far off course. He was shot 20 times, hands up, okay? He had his hands up. They found a cell phone. Now, tonight, before you got on the line here, brother, I played a clip that Lions Den was able to dig up, where it shows the cops actually, it shows the cops, but I played the audio and you can hear the cops shooting them all those times. And then they're huffing and puffing and you hear the cop saying, he doesn't have a gun, he doesn't have a gun. And prior to them saying he doesn't have a gun, you heard the cop saying, make sure you load your gun up again. So after they shot this young man 20 times, they were already talking about loading the gun up some more and some more, okay? Okay, so that's the deal, my man Charlie. Briefly, before I go over to Lions Den, because I know you're at work tonight, what are your opinions about what you just heard?
Well, it's consistent of what they're doing. I mean, I remember television shows that we used to watch and everything where the cops came out and said, hey, freeze, freeze. And they went to apprehend somebody. It may have handcuffed them and stuff for no reason or everything, but it looks like now you're not trying to apprehend anybody, black or brown. It's shoot on contact. And it seems like it's coming from the top. And anytime you have the courts and the systems that never, very seldom, ever prosecute the police, why should they care? And that's the only thing that will stop it. If black and brown lives, some of these cops end up in prison, it will stop tomorrow. But they got a green light to go ahead. As long as it's a black or brown person, you don't have to worry about it. And I just think that's what it's all about. It's no freeze, trying to apprehend the suspect, handcuffing them, reading them their rights or whatever they're trying to do, or even talk to them. It's just shoot them on sight. I'm scared. In the meantime, we see what's happening as far as the terrorism from the other side, from our European males and stuff like that. It don't seem like they're too scared of them, no. They, regardless of what they do, they apprehended alive. You know, stuff. Sometimes they get Big Macs and or whatever, you know, and cheeseburgers for the efforts.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that Ruth Dillon, they brought him to, or they got him a Burger King. Unbelievable. Yeah. Lions Den, let me come over to you, brother. I know I'm retreading what we kind of played before, but do you have anything you want to add as Brother Charlie has added his piece to what we're talking about tonight? You got anything to add?
Yeah, info. So sad. The girlfriend of the victim saying that, asking, where's daddy, where's daddy, where's daddy? As you and I both know, I mean, you're a father yourself, info, and I'm a godfather to a child. It's hurt so hard to hear something like this. You know, it's breaking my heart. And it's now you have, again, two police officers, Sacramento, who's now on administrative paid leave, of killing an unarmed man over a cell phone. So my thing is, info, all the cases that we talked about earlier, and when is it going to stop? When is it going to stop? It's like every time there's a case going on, officers either not being indicted, or they said, well, we're going to give you paid administrative leave for this. So info, it is so outrageous, and I hope now matter in go ahead and protest, you know, in the Sacramento area to prove their point that this will never happen again. But I got a feeling, info, it will happen again until somebody make police held accountable for their actions.
I don't know, Charlie, you could probably speak to this better than I can. And I'm gonna, Charlie, I'm gonna read a couple of quick articles. Well, it's not a long article. They're short little sentences. This is the science that I'm gonna read behind why police, amongst many other variables, race, why they get off when they kill us, and the sort of psychological tools that they use to get the cops off, along with the ramification that most of these jury pools are white. You got a white judge 9 out of 10 times. And black life, as I was saying earlier tonight, black life in American society is not worth anything. Nobody cares. You know, we saw what happened to the young brother Mason, 17 years old, in the bombing in the brother house. Those brothers were killed, and the media really didn't go over it and over and over and over it because nobody really cares about black life. Black life does not sell newspapers. It does not sell visual and audio media. So I'm going to go over that, but I'm going to come to you right now, Charlie, and let me know, what do you think? Because you're an activist, you're out there, you're on the front lines more than anybody. What do you think black folks in Sacramento are going to really do? Because I tend to have the feeling that Sacramento, in comparison to cities like Oakland and the Bay Area or across the country, doesn't really have that electricity of consciousness in the air. You've got folks in Sacramento like yourself, small numbers of people that are conscious. But do you think that people in Sacramento, or black folks in particular, are really going to galvanize around this issue and really give the Sacramento Police Department a lot of hell? What do you say?
Well, you have, you know, chapters of Black Lives Matter in Sacramento. You also have Latino Brothers, Brown Berets, and you have some left-leaning, you know, organizations out there that actually do go to the courts. Actually, if you're alive, you have to be alive for them to go to court. But you know, but there are people that galvanize out there and together and try to get stuff done. But you know, the black community, unfortunately, in Sacramento, for whatever reason, is run kind of from the religious establishment and stuff like that, and different preachers and stuff. Not that I'm putting down the preachers and stuff like that. We have had some radical preachers, but that's not the norm. Okay, and stuff like that's the exception. And so, unfortunately, since the religious community runs the place so much, the consciousness is not where it should be, and so that's a problem. As far as the activism and the consciousness. But I do think it's changing. There's a chance for the younger generation to kind of catch a fire and everything. But, you know, it's not where it would be, as say, in the Bay Area, as far as, or LA or places like that, that actually have been out there dealing with this over and over and have a history of understanding the oppression.
Okay. Now, Charlie, you hit on something, which is where I was going to play I'm going to play a clip, brother. I believe that one of the problems that black people have is that, and now I'm probably going to catch hell for this, but I think one of the problems that we have in a black community is that I believe that because we are spiritual people by nature, because we operate off of a high frequency level, one of our downfalls is this belief that we have in Christianity that pacifies us. For example, when Walter Scott was killed and shot like an animal by that police officer in South Carolina who used him as target practice, in my opinion, the first thing that Walter Scott's family did on television, on CNN, as embarrassing as it was to me, is that they got on television, they got on CNN, and they begin singing hymns and saying, we forgive him, and let's pray for Dylan Roof and all of that. That's black people's downfall. You don't kill my family. You don't kill my blood and expect me to get on TV and say, I'm feeling good, master. Oh, the Negro spiritual is inside of me. Oh, the preacher, we forgive him our daily bread. And we must forgive because Jesus is going to save us. No, that's our problem. Now, let me play this clip because these black folks out here in Sacramento, I believe, are already going down that road, Charlie and Lion's Den. Take a look and listen to this clip that I'm about to play you right here, right now.
The unfortunate part about this whole thing is this is going to actually be the moment that's going to define the new policing in Sacramento. This is something that, unfortunately, we've been waiting on, and now it's here. We've arrived at this place to see if there's going to be accountability, transparency, is going to be some justice. Because these are the things that the people in the community have been screaming and been fighting for. And it's been told to us with the new police chief that we'll have that. And we'll be able to see a new kind of policing here in Sacramento with these things.
It's coming up. Watch.
Man will not be taken lightly. And if things come back to where there was some foul play, the moment of truth now is here for Sacramento. Well, we actually
here it goes.
Because we know what she's going through. We actually look at us to quit. Because we know what she's going through. We actually look at her Stephon. We actually look at that. We actually look at the jail. Hey, no better. Because these are the ones that got the rest of us. But we ask you to strengthen her. Lead her. Let her know there's nothing that she has done. All we have to stand fast. Trust in you. Put our eyes on the Spirit. And know that Jesus is our God. Amen.
That's right.
Wow.
Just what I said, brother. You can always find a black person that will give you a good Negro spiritual when black folks are being killed. We don't have time, in my opinion. All due respect to the sister on there, I do like the fact that she was acknowledging the family members that have lost their father, that have lost their brother, that have lost their cousin, their homeboy, their man, whoever he was, the people out here in Sacramento. But the problem is that why is it every time black people are being killed indiscriminately, being shot by cops, you can always find Negroes that are going to start getting into this Negro spiritual. Let's go to church. Let's give it to Jesus. And the last time I checked, if I can quote Fannie Lou Hammond said, and I quote the great Fannie Lou Hammond, you can pray until you faint. But if you don't get up and do something, the Lord ain't going to put it in your hands. Now, that's a straight quote from Fannie Lou Hammond. That's what I'm saying. Black folks, we can do all the praying that we want. It ain't going to bring them back to life, just like it didn't bring those black folks back to life down there in South Carolina that were killed by Dylan Roof, and they were on TV praying and singing all these rituals. And one thing I have learned in my 48 years of life is that white people love to watch black people sing hymns and dance and entertain like that. And we don't have time for that. That's a coward way out. We need to be talking about what are we going to do to hold the police department of Sacramento or any police department accountable in this world. We don't have time to be singing and joining hands and doing all of this James Brown, get on our knees and put the robe over me. We don't have time for that. Lion's Den, I'm coming into you. And I'm going to come back to Charlie. Lion's Den, what is your opinion about that audio that you heard? Yes, we know that we are a spiritual people. Yes, we know that she was giving props or giving love to the people that have lost. But do we really have time? Is that the message that's going to galvanize black people to stand up, stand out, and do something about what's going on in this community of Sacramento? What do you think, Lion's Den?
I'm going to say, I say no.
Why do you say no? And my man Charlie's laughing because, you know, he's laughing at my caricature of this whole situation. Why did you say that, Lions Den?
The reason why I said no is because a lot of people being killed unjustly, and all they do is pray. And we don't have time for that. We don't have time to pray. I mean, I respect the sister that said that we got to go and pray in our needs, but the more we pray, more victims are going to be increasing. We losing so many brothers and sisters right now for police violence, right now. And they talk about, well, we need to pray and we need to ask God to come again. I understand religion, but it's time for that. We need to start doing something before more and more people getting killed.
Brother, let me say this to you, Lions Den. I agree with everything you're saying, and this is why I'm about to give you a clap. Black folks have been praying for over 500 years. We've been praying for over, let me repeat that. We've been praying for over 500 years, okay? Like Fannie Lou Haman said, and I quoted her, you can pray until you faint, but if you don't get up and do something, the Lord is not going to put it in your hands. Those black folks in Sacramento that were praying with this sister, all due respect to them, that praying is wonderful in theory, but in reality, you're not going to be blessed until you get up off your ass and do something, hold the Sacramento police accountable. The activists have to come out in this community. Hell, I am prepared myself to put my foot to ground and go out there and do whatever it takes to bring attention to this issue, which is one of the reasons why I decided to do this YouTube audio tonight, my podcast and everything else. But I'm prepared. But I'm not prepared to go to a church and sing hymns and cry and say hallelujah and all that stuff and start crying with the tear like Michael Jordan when he did his acceptance speech for the Basketball Hall of Fame. I'm tired of that. We got to get out of that type of plantation mentality, Chicken George mentality, I call it. So I'm just telling it like it is because I'm feeling thunderous tonight. As I get ready to come over to my man, Charlie, as we get ready. Yeah. Charlie, you heard what I said. Before I get ready to go into the other segment of the show, as we get close to a crescendo on this show, what are your thoughts about the audio that you just heard? Now, that's Sacramento black folks, okay? This is black folks in Sacramento right now. Yeah. Now, let me be fair. The audio that I played, there were black people out there already picketing, all right? They were already out there sort of demonstrating. So I got to give them that much credit. But then you heard the brother talking about he's hoping that this situation will be a breakthrough for the black community along with the police to get to some kind of resolution. I doubt it. How many times are black men being killed and we have these same conversations, these same circular conversations that I'm having with you brothers right now. The same circular and nobody cares about black life, okay? I don't even think this was reported on. I don't even think CNN talked about this today. And if they did, they gave it a small footnote, right? I don't know if Al Sharpton and all these so-called pork chop eating, pig skin eating, Coming to America, you know, Preacher, Charlie, woo, look at those good-looking women, turn around this way, turn around that way. Oh, good Lord. I don't know if these type of preachers and leadership that we have are going to get involved in this case and say what's happening. Because what they're doing, like they did with Trayvon, they're muddying the waters by trying to talk about the brother's criminal background. Brother, if you are a black man in America, there's a chance that you could have a criminal history. And sometimes it could be because you were mischaracterized, and that can happen. But that said, Charlie, what is your opinion shortly about what you heard on the audio that I played?
Well, the short part about it is, like I said, unfortunately, the colonized mind can't get past understanding that you actually, to be honest with you, I think, in my opinion, and I'm not just going to beat down on Christianity. I mean, Christianity, and no disrespect, okay? Like I know a lot of brothers is into Islam and Hinduism, but all of them lead to one stream, and that stream is they accept inequality. They have scriptures that actually say slavery is all right. So anytime, whatever religion or belief you have, if it's not about equality or egalitarianism, where everybody is treated the same, and some people are expendable, then actually you're praying to your actual oppression. Okay. Okay. And so that's very dangerous. Anytime you pray to the God of somebody who has enslaved you in some kind of way or oppressed you, then you're actually praying for your oppression, not your liberation, which I think that's very dangerous, okay, in my opinion. But, you know, the main thing is that we have to keep our feet on the ground and understand that the Creator, and when I say Creator, I'm talking about the ecosystem, I'm talking about this whole planet and everything. It is very spiritual, but that's the power of it. Everything on this planet was created as part of creation. You know, whether you're a human, animal, plant, life is precious, okay, and it has power and value. This system tells us certain things are a commodity and worth something. Like, in other words, a diamond is worth a certain amount, and another rock is worth nothing, okay, based on a free market. So our thing is that everybody is of value, and believe yourself to be of value, okay, and that will lead you, in my opinion, to step up and fight for your rights and demand your rights for everybody. Okay. If you keep, so that's my opinion on it.
Okay, let me go on. I'm going to present something to everybody out there listening. We got folks out there listening in the Facebook Live, YouTube, and then we have speaker.com world. Let me read this. Charlie, I don't know if you are aware of this, Lions and everybody out there listening. When police kill people in general, but particularly when they kill black men and black women, and we always say, why did he get off? Why did they get off? Why did they do? Oh, they got off because, you know, they're white, we're black. Well, the racial, cultural conditioning, the racism, the prejudice, all the biases and stereotypes play a role in why police get off when they kill us. But then check this out. There's a psychologist or a psychology that also plays a role in how they get off as well. It's called fight or flight, how adrenaline affects your body. Now, these are the three phases. There's the vascular construction, which is the loss of fine motor skills. Let me read here. One of the first things your body does in response to danger is to attempt to move the blood to the important parts of your body. Muscle tension and forces the blood to the heart, lungs, and major arteries in the internal organs. This leaves very little blood out there in the extremities. So this is a scientific thing that they use where they're saying that the reason why these cops, when they shoot and they make these kind of mistakes, like shoot a man with a cell phone in his hand or shoot a man when someone's saying, stop, he didn't do it, right? Because they're saying that there's certain physical, they make the argument that because the body goes to certain physical changes, this is why cops make the mistakes they make. This is what they use to get them off in the court psychologically. Now, here's the other one. There's something called auditory exclusion. Auditory exclusion is ears can play tricks on you. So this is the part where you come out and you say, don't shoot. Or you as a victim, like that brother who puts your hand up and say, hey, don't shoot me, but they still shoot you. This is the argument that they will make. The auditory exclusion, ears can play tricks on you, is in stressful situation, people don't hear very well. So here's the key buzzword. And stressful situations, people don't hear well. They will hire psychologists to come into the court and break this down to put this in the minds of a jury pool. Okay, so here we go again. In stressful situations, people don't hear very well. You may hear only a muffled sound, or you may hear just one tone, tiny tone. Unported sounds that cut through the clutter leaves you wondering why you're hearing it. You may or may not hear any or all gunshots being fired. So this is the argument. When the cops went in there and they shot Brother Clark 20 times, if they end up going to court, they'll get a psychologist that will say, well, these are police officers, and when they did the shooting, they went through a situation called auditorio inclusion. And this is what it does to you. It causes you to have what does it say here? Unimportant sound that cuts through the clutter, leaving you wondering why you're hearing it. You may or may not hear it, any or all the gunshots being fired. So if you shoot a gunshot, you can make the argument that, well, I shot 20 times, but I couldn't tell that I shot 20 times. I couldn't tell that I could hear 20 shots. I had heavy breathing. I was in a nervous situation. I feared for my life, which is what police always use as their narrative. This is another thing. Now, the next thing I'm going to bring you through. Tunnel vision, line of sight narrowing. They're saying that when police shoot someone, they cut out, they have a narrow tunnel vision, right? So the argument could be is that when the police shot Brother Clark, they could say, oh, I didn't see the cell phone in his hand. I just saw him and he looked very gruesome. I saw him coming towards me. I saw that he was a threat. They can make up all kinds of things, man. And they'll use this. It says this: tunnel vision or target fixation can mean you only see a small part of what's going on. Okay? What's going on? Often victims of violent crime see only the weapon and never get a good look at their assaulter, right? Or whatever. You can break this tunnel vision by turning your head and physically looking for other threats. So what I'm trying to say, Charlie, I'm not trying to say that I agree with this, but this is what they use in the courts to psychologically get police off, such as when police say, hey, I thought he was going for his handgun because he was putting his hands below his waist. That's a buzzword. Or they'll say, I feared for my life, which is what the Sacramento police reported after these two police killed this man, 20 shots. Now, let me get to the last point of this, because I'm not going to read this whole article. It's very long, but it's the psychology of fight. What can you expect from your body during a deadly force incident? Now, the last one. This is the brain working. The expanded compression time. What is expanded compression time? It's when you feel like you have a sense of lost time. Like you can't remember. Like this is why when they interview police and they can't give you all the details other than, well, he was a threat. I felt for my life. And then they start changing their damn stories, right? Well, a psychologist will, if a cop changes their story and the defense team or the prosecution says, hey, this cop is lying. Well, a psychologist will come in and say, well, he's not necessarily lying. What he's going through in his mind mentally is an expanded compression time, loss of time and perception. Your perception tells you that the guy that had the cell phone in his hand, which was Stephon Clark, had a cell phone, and because you thought it was a gun and not a cell phone. And now they'll have a psychologist come in to explain to the jury why the cop could mistaken the cell phone for a gun using the loss of time and perception. Let me read this. Under the stress, you may feel like things are happening in slow motion, or you may not have the accurate grasp of time, how long an event went on. So that's why when police change their stories to like, well, it was 45 minutes, it was 60 minutes, whatever, right? So now they change the perception of time in the event. When it comes to time to making a statement to police, okay, This is your statement to police, but then they have a statement to police. This is another reason to only speak to authorities with your lawyer. So now check this out. Because when something happens to us as humans, I'm putting my psychology cap on tonight, folks. When something happens to humans, this is why we will give a different story. We may have a hard time remembering some details, but we'll remember others. And in this article, it says, this is why you should not talk to police without a proper lawyer, because you will say things that are not correct because you go through what they call expansion of compression of time, loss of time and perception. You will lose a certain percentage of your perception as to what happened. This is why they've done studies where they will tell, they've done studies where they'll have someone run in a room, like a classroom, steal someone's bag, and then everybody will have a different interpretation of what the person looked like that came in the room and stole the bag. Some people will say, oh, he was 6 feet. Oh, he was 5 feet. Oh, he was black. Oh, he was white, right? And then they've done studies like this. If I was to show you all a picture of a white kid running and a black kid running, or a black man running or a white man running, and I've been in classrooms and psychology classrooms where we've done these kind of studies, a majority of the people generally will say that the black guy is running from either the police or from the law, whatever, right? And the white guy is running to help someone, running to do a good deed, right? And when they unveiled the slide, it was the white guy that was running from the police, and it was the black man who was doing a good deed for someone, right? But the perception of most people in America, because we're culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior and black is inferior, most people will think that the black man is a criminal, which is why, using the compression time and perception, those cops shot this black man with that cell phone in his hand because they had a perception that he's a black man, he's a threat, he's aggressive, we've got to take him out. Now, I'm breaking the psychology down for you folks, and this is important for us to understand. This is the article that I'm reading, so you know that I'm not talking some BS here. You see right there, psychology of fight or flight, which is what people do in their bodies physically. Then this is biophysics. Okay, this is what we go through. So with that said, Charlie, I wanted to get that information out. Charlie, I'm gonna get ready to get close to wrapping the show up. I'm gonna give Lyondon some words. I've got to play a clip of my man Malcolm X, and I've got to get into a few other things. Can you get something real quick? Yeah, go ahead, Charlie. Go right ahead, brother.
I was trying to do as brief as possible. So I know you're short on time. Okay.
Yes.
I'm looking at the shirt. It looks like that's Bruce Lee, right?
Yes, it is Bruce Lee.
Okay, well, Bruce Lee had a style that was called Jeet Kune Do, Way of the Intercepted Fist.
Yes.
And
Bruce Lee, folks.
Amongst having different styles, what he was about being direct. That's why he was unbeatable. He didn't waste time with classical moves. He used things that was fast and direct. So I'm gonna be fast and direct. Regardless of all the psychology you read, the key is the jury selection and having a jury of your peers. Okay, if you have, I'm not saying all blacks now, that you have some upper class bougie type blacks also, but if you get a jury of the peers of this victim, 23-year-old blacks that live in Sacramento or the California area, and maybe a few Latinos and everything, you can read all the psychology you want to read, but they have a history and they understand this whole cell phone thing, where people get shot with cell phones over and over again. And after the psychology is over, you would have a conviction, okay? And after that conviction, when those cops go to prison, I'm not going to talk about what happened to them in prison and everything, but that's a deterrent to stop people from saying, hey, we don't have that get out of jail free card no more. We can get convicted for doing this stuff. And then all of a sudden the fight and flight thing would end, and they would try to apprehend people and stuff and handcuff them, and then have to let them go after they don't have anything on them or whatever they're going to do, but they would not do that. But what it is now is that they got to get out of jail free thing, because the jury selection is pretty much going to be predominantly white, probably some middle-class whites or something like that from the suburbs or somewhere where they just don't understand, And like you said, their perception is all blacks are criminals. Young blacks are criminals, and young Latinos or young natives are criminals. So the jury selection is a key, because there's been key trials, like even the Rodney King thing back in the 90s, where they actually changed the venue because they knew that the police brutality was so rampant amongst the black and brown community that they thought they couldn't get a fair trial. So they moved it to Simi Valley. So the key is having an all-white jury or people that are pro-cop, anti-black and brown, that grew up with these stereotypes of all black and brown people being criminals, and that's where they get off, the jury selection. The jury of our peers, what they talk about, which is nonsense, is not happening amongst black victims or whether on trial or they're the victims of crimes. It's never a jury of their peers. Yeah. So I'm doing that from the Bruce Lee perspective to cut straight to the chase, Chico and Dole, forget everything else.
Jingo Dome.
Not having a jury of your peers to understand what's going on. Okay, and the whole concept of what black and brown people go through in the occupation army of what the police has become, unfortunately, in the black and brown communities.
Okay.
Okay.
Charlie, let me say this, Charlie. I completely agree with you. You're making sense. I'm giving you a clap here. I completely agree with you. This is the problem. And I'm going to get ready to go over to Lions Den in just a moment. Hang on there, Lions Den. I haven't forgotten about you, brother. This is the problem. One of the problems when you talk about a jury of our own peers is, let's keep it real. A lot of black folks, I'm generalizing here, a lot of us don't like being on a jury. As soon as we get a jury, a mail, as soon as we go to our mailbox and we get a jury notice, the first thing that we say to ourselves, and I have done it many a times, and I'm guilty of this, how do I get my ass out of jury duty? What can I do? How can I get out of it? And then as soon as I remember, what was it, 2 years ago, I got a jury duty letter. And the first thing I said is, how can I get my ass out of this jury duty? And then they had me on a case and they got me, they pulled, because of the kind of work that I do, they got me and this other guy that was at our job. They got us the hell out of that damn courtroom. I think the third day, the lawyers were like, we like to have Mr. Such and such step down and to be dismissed from the case. We like to have such and such. Once they knew what my psychology was and what kind of work I did and the fact that I dealt with criminals, you know, and all this other kind of stuff, they said, we got to get this Negro off this damn jury, because they know that none of their tricks would fool me, because I know all their tricks. See? So this damn psychology of flight and flight, this vascular construction, this auditorial conclusion, this tunnel vision, this expanded compression time, I know this shit, so they wouldn't be able to fool me, brother Charlie. But check this out. Because a lot of us don't serve on juries, which we should, we try to get out of it. And a lot of times when you're a black person and you're talking too real, you almost got to coon your way onto a jury. You got to talk like a coon, Lions Den. You got to actually be a step and fetch it. Well, you got to get up there and say, well, I feel that the law should be followed, that we should not be biased to the law. We should follow the laws that were written by our forefathers. And I believe that Abraham Lincoln and George Washington were the greatest men that ever lived on earth. We got to talk that coon talk. And if you talk that coon talk, they'll keep you on the jury. But the minute you talk as a black man, the first thing they're going to say, when you leave that courtroom that day and the judge and the lawyers gather together, they're going to say, you know, that one Negro, we got to get rid of that Negro. That one Negro is going to be a problem for us. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, is this truth to power or is this not truth to power, Lions Den? Huh?
It is truth to power.
Okay, so that's part of the problem, Charlie. As I agree with you, part of the problem is not enough of us serve on juries. Not enough of us are being kept on there because if we talk our politics, they get rid of us. And not enough of us are willing to be, and you know this book and movie very well. Not a lot of us. How many of us are willing to be a spook that sits next to the door? How many of us are willing to coon our way onto a jury and act like we just love America and apple pie? And then as soon as we get on that jury, we say, I'm pro-black on that jury. That's all you got to do. All you got to do, black folks in America, is coon your way onto the jury pool. So when you go through the jury process, don't be talking that black power stuff. Talk like Brian Gumbo. I just love America. So when you get in court and they ask you questions about yourself, sir, tell us about yourself. The first thing you should say as a black person, I love this country. I would die for this country. You know what I mean? You gotta be what Donald Trump says. That's my African American. Where's my African American? You gotta be one of those Clarence Thomas. Okay, you gotta be a Larry Elder type of Negro. And Charlie, when you get a chance, you need to check out, which I wish I would have had you on that night. You got to check out Lions Den and myself did a piece on Larry Elder. It's called Black Conservatives Are Off Code. Check out the YouTube channel, man. Make sure you subscribe too, Charlie. And everybody out there in Facebook Live, get your butts over to the YouTube channel at Information Man Show. Information Man Show. Everybody out there in YouTube, and subscribe. I don't want to be a preacher right now, but subscribe so you can get everything that we're doing. But Charlie, we gotta be willing to coon our behinds on these juries and be a spook that sits next to the door, and then when we get in there, mess everything up. Now, with the sake of time, because my man Lionsden's in the East Coast, and he's got to get his beauty sleep soon, I'm gonna bring it over to him, ask him what he thinks about the things that we just said before we get into my beautiful Malcolm X piece that I want to play, which is only about 2 minutes. Lions Den. Brother, you've been very patient, and I thank you. Lay it on us. What are your opinions about everything that we've been saying and the article that I read?
But before I go any further, my thoughts and prayers go to Stephon and his family.
Oh, yes.
That was a terrible tragedy. What happened to him shouldn't even happen at all. But that being said, you know, when you're talking about that psychiatrist talk, when the psychiatrist go to court, did they did that to Muhammad Noor in Minnesota? I don't think so. Did they did that to the two officers, the black officers that was shooting at this van that killed a white boy? Didn't even know the white boy was in the van. But basically, the father even ran to the officers. Did they do that for them? No. My point is, Info, is that you see the doubles. This is why I said black officers need to stand up and speak out and say this is racism in the police departments. Because obviously you see what's going on. We see all these white officers get away with murder, and these black officers spend the rest of their lives in prison. So they need to speak out. They need to speak out right now and say enough is enough. There's racism in the police department, and all this unjust violence we see through unarmed black men and women needs to end. But until they say something, all these incidents will continue to happen.
You're absolutely right. Charlie, I want to thank you for being with us tonight, brother. You added a nice little element. I'm kind of glad that you did. I was really hoping to get you on the Google Hangout where you could be right on the system. But if the Google Hangout does not work for you for whatever reason, or you're not able to download it or it's not working, then we'll have to bring you in through the Facebook audio chat like we're doing now, because your voice is projecting. We can hear you. So it works out either way. Brothers, I want to leave everybody with this statement. Black people, we need to do everything we can to infiltrate this society. I did a piece on YouTube about how white skinheads, hate groups are infiltrating themselves into our society, into positions of power, politics, police, military, all this kind of stuff, right? They're profiling us. Why don't we profile them? And another thing I must say is that we need to infiltrate ourselves into these institutions and be the spooks that sit next to the door. And the first way we do it is that we need to do what, and I know that those that are against us are going to listen to this YouTube. You know, we know they're out there, the trolls and the people that oppose us, but I don't care. I'm speaking to the people that need to get this knowledge. We need to be the spook that sat next to the door. Read that book, by the way. Try to watch the movie if you can. It's a classic. You need to be the spook. The movie and the book. Either one, get it, read it, study it. But we need to infiltrate this establishment. A lot of us are saying, well, we can't do anything. Yes, we can. Infiltrate the establishment. And the way you infiltrate it is you have to be a coon. Now, wait a minute. You're going to say, wait a minute, info man. I ain't going to be no coon. No, what I'm saying to you is that you have to play the role like you are a coon. And once you get in there, like the spook that's sat next to the door, you take all that knowledge and give it back to the community and use the white man's stuff against the white man. That's what the spook that sat next to the door was all about. So what we need to do when it comes to the jury pool, and the only time we had black folks that really socked it to the system on the jury was the O.J. Simpson case, okay? Those black folks really socked it to the system. And look what it did to white Americans in this country. It really brought them down to their feet. They still haven't gotten over the O.J. trial. And here we are in 2018. It has affected them psychologically. And you know why? Because those black folks that were on that jury, they played the spook that sat next to the door. So I say, if you're on a jury in which police have done some misjustice to black people, be a coon. Do everything you can to get on that jury and make the right decision. All right, and make a decision that's based in truth and reality and truth. Because 9 out of 10 times when they put these things on trial, the majority of the jury is made up of white people who already have a negative perceptions of black males. And then when those psychologists get up there and start talking this psychology stuff, you know, the auditory exclusion, the tunnel vision, the expansion, compression, time, loss of perception, when they talk all that talk, they're going to buy into it. On top of the fact that they're going to see you as the black male or black woman as a danger anyway. So we have to coon ourselves onto these establishments and then do the right thing. Now, I know what I'm saying sounds very radical. I'm not saying be a coon. I'm saying be a coon to get into the system and mess it up. For example, Clarence Thomas could do a lot for black America if he just was a coon to get on the court. And then when he got on the court, he started doing radical stuff. But what we've learned is that Clarence Thomas is a true coon. I mean, he's a true pig's feet, pig's belly, oink, oink, if you can catch it. Okay, gravy and cornbread coon, because he's done nothing since he's been on that court. Yeah, he's done nothing since he's been on that court. So we know that he's not for us. We know that Larry Elder from LA, who has this radio show, he gets up here and talks about black folks like a dog. We know that he's a true blue coon because he doesn't do any, as much as Larry Elder talks about what's wrong with the black community, I never heard not one time what he's trying to do to help the black community. He talks about single parent households. Black conservatives love to bring up the single parent household scenario. Yet none of these black conservatives are telling you what they're actually doing in the community. Okay. When I've gone in the community working with kids, tutoring kids, getting my feet dirty in the community, I've never once seen these black conservatives who talk all this negativity about black folks get their hands dirty and they don't. Okay, they simply spend a lot of time talking about what's wrong with black folks. And God knows, yes, we do have some problems, but let's figure out solutions. My solution to this tonight is that, one, black folks, this is my solution, that we can neutralize this by black folks getting on juries, fighting the power. If you are a black male, I have to be honest, I don't think it was a good look for Brother Clark to be out there late at night doing whatever he did. As a black male, you have to understand two things don't go well with you: black and walking around at night. Okay, that's dangerous for black males. If you are a black male and you're walking around at 1 and 12 and 11 o'clock at night in neighborhoods, first of all, you're black. So you're automatically going to be seen as what? A criminal doing something. So I would say, don't be, I know it's a damn shame that we can't be able to walk at any time we want to walk. But the truth of the matter, in American society, it is not a very good proposition for you as a black man to be walking the streets at 11 and 12 o'clock at night. Something could happen. I'm just being honest. It's not a good combination for us because you could be perceived as a criminal, as something, you know, just like that movie Get Out. They want, even if you're a black, look, there have been cases where black men that live in nice communities and they walk there, they're jogging, minding their own business. And what happens? They get stopped by the cop and they're like, what are you doing here? I believe Tyler Perry got stopped in Atlanta, Georgia one time by the police and they thrashed him around like common nothing. And what Tyler Perry learned that night is that it doesn't matter how many hit movies you make. It doesn't matter how many Oscars you can win. Okay, how much money you have. If you are a black man driving a car, you will be seen as a black man driving a car. Simple as that. You're a black man driving a car, something is wrong, we got to stop you, we got to frisk you, we got to see what's going on. If you got a fancy car, we want to see if you got drugs in that car. These are just some of the truths. And so with that said, I'm going to, Lions, do you have any last things you want to say, brother?
I would like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. And it was a great topic that we're talking about this. Let me say this. I think now is the time to stand up and speak out. Black officers, if you're a police officer, it's time to speak out now. You already see what they're doing. It's time to speak out now because the black people need you. And obviously we see a lot of black female officers, black male officers. I know that's out there. We need you to speak for us and say enough is enough. You see unarmed black men and women being murdered in different cities, Chicago, New Orleans, here in DC, New York, San Francisco, everywhere else. It's time to speak out now. And basically, if you don't speak out now, you notice more and more incidents will continue to happen. And that's all I have to say, Info.
Okay. You know what, Lions Den, I love what you said, brother. You put it right on the dime. Charlie, brother, I want to thank you for calling me back. I actually had hit your number by mistake, trying to see if I can get you into the Google. But I'm kind of glad that you called back, brother, because you added a dimension to the show that we needed. You gave a perspective. Do you have any last words before I get ready to end the program?
I know you're short on time, but I'm just glad that even though I came at the end of it, just have the discussion. It seemed like it was a good show. I missed most of it, but the contents of what I heard was very good. It really was. Well,
brother, next time, I know you're working, but now that I know that we can get you on the, like I said, if we can't get that Google Hangout to work for you, we'll definitely just bring you into the show from time to time through the Facebook. It's amazing I'm talking about Facebook, considering the fact that they're stealing from us and they're using our personal information. And let me play this before we end the night. Let me play, look. A young black male, 22 years old, shot 20 times by Sacramento police. But the young man, the young white boy who killed those black folks with the package and hurt the Latino sister and killed a 17-year-old young man who had promise, who blew himself up. Let me play the audio as to how the news was talking about how the police had to handle him with clipped gloves. They had to make sure that he was alive. Let me play this for y'all.
He used to come to visit, but he said he didn't have much interaction with the suspect over the past few years. He said, listen, I'm a 75-year-old man. He was a 24-year-old kid. We exchanged pleasantries, but we didn't have any deep conversations. But, he said, listen, he was a quiet, nice kid, Brianna.
Yeah. Now, let me stop it right there. Look at how they describe him. a quiet, nice kid. How the hell was he quiet and nice when he's blowing people up? Look how he did. Look how he did the picture. Now check this out. Stephon Clark got shot 20 times by the police of Sacramento, and they're already trying to like go into his past and make a criminality out of him, make him a criminal. Oh, he was this, he was that. He did this crime in 19 this. He did this crime 5 years ago, right? But this kid just blew up a damn community, terrorized. He's a damn terrorist. He was a terrorist.
Yeah.
He's a terrorist. He terrorized his community. And now they're sitting up here talking about, oh, they look how they're characterizing him. Well, he was seen as a nice kid. Well, he was a nice kid. You know what? Kiss my black, you know what? Let's finish the clip.
Surprising to the folks in his neighborhood. And Ed Lavandera, thank you so much to both of you. I want to talk more about this extraordinary manhunt. We have Juliette Kayyem, a CNN national security analyst, with us to discuss this. She's a former assistant secretary at the Department of Homeland Security. Juliette, police say when they finally located this suspect, they wanted a peaceful resolution, obviously. Take us to those final moments. How does law enforcement approach a suspect in a situation like this?
Well, they would have given him all the time in the world to make the decision to come out peacefully. It's clear that Condit did not want to do that, that how this ended for him in his mind was going to be his own death, whether it was through explosives that he detonated that killed himself or through some interaction with police. There's not a lot they can do, but their sentiment to try to end this peacefully would have been for a variety of reasons. One is you do want the defendant to survive. He's going to have information. You want to get information from him. We also don't know if other packages are out in the sort of postal atmosphere. And so the primary concern is, of course, protecting Texans at this stage, making sure there's not any other undetonated bombs. And the third is obviously the copycat fear, which is, I think, a big concern right now, not just in Texas, but elsewhere. Condit, we don't know much about him. How did he learn how to do this? How was he somewhat sophisticated about it? What you want to do is sort of ensure that there's no copycats, and one way of doing that is, showing the perp walk, so to speak, and that he would have been, put before a court. That's not going to happen now.
And mayhem. Presumably, they're going to have more time here to see if the
times were motivated by.
Let me stop that there. Reason why I played that is because they never called him a thug. They never said he was a piece of you know what. They simply talked about how it was very important that we get our hands on him so we can do the perk walk. It's very important so that we can know if there's other bombs out there. They sort of wanted to handle him with kid gloves. But then he eventually ended up killing himself, blowing himself up. But I played that in contrast because they were describing him as if he was just some young schoolboy, right? This is the difference in how they characterize white criminals who do terrorist acts and a black man who basically got shot by the cops, minding his own, shot by the cops, putting his hands up, saying, don't shoot me. They shoot him. He's dead, shot 20 times. And now we're in a situation where his family is at a loss. The community has lost someone. I don't care about what his criminal past was. The fact of the matter is he got killed in an unlawful manner. Excessive force is what I think it was. That's my opinion. I want to thank you guys for being on the show tonight. I want to thank you. I want to leave everybody. I want to drop this dime on everybody before we end the show tonight. Charlie, thank you, brother. We're going to get you back on. We're going to talk about many other subjects. Lions Den, you got any final words, brother?
Don't give up. Stay woke and keep up the fight. And Black Lives, listen to me. Listen to me. Speak for us. We need you. The Black community needs you right now. Speak for us, and basically everybody will hear you. And that's all I can say, Info.
Well, let me say, I'm going to be controversial here. Black police have had enough opportunity to speak up. How many more black men and women need to be killed and shot this way for black police to finally come out and talk? Their silence, to me, is already their answer. Don't get me wrong. You've had a few black cops get on television and say that, hey, these shootings are not right. Then you got your Sheriff Clark type Negroes who get up there with his big old cowboy hat, looking like a super coon, okay? Getting up there talking about, oh, the criminals, it's the Black Lives Matter, that's a criminal organization, when you got white hate groups in this country that have killed more police than any Black Lives Matter, any Black Panther organization, any organization that they want to deem as a Black extremist identity, or that whole thing. So I don't really subscribe, Lion's Den, and I'm not saying that you do. I don't subscribe to the old statement that they say, oh, all cops are not bad. Well, my question is, if all cops are not bad, okay, I'm just saying this for the sake of the argument of what we're talking about here. If all cops are not bad, then damn it, where are the good cops to stop the bad cops from shooting? Because every time the bad cops are shooting and killing us like this, you don't see the good cops. Where are the good cops to tell that cop, don't shoot? Don't shoot him 20 times. Or it's not necessary to shoot him until he's dead. Where are those good cops? It's funny how you don't hear from these good cops when we're being shot like this. You don't hear from them in wholesale. Where are the good cops to go? Where are the good cop marches? Huh? Where are the good cops? I think 351 Black men were killed by police just last year. This killing might make 53, 55. Okay. And no. Cops are killing us left and right. They're killing us. And I really wished I had my other soundbite from Joe Madison, where he breaks down the statistical numbers of how many. Let me just break it down like this. I think I have it in my head. Listening to him, do you know that cops have killed more people across the board in this country than you've had killed? I'm talking about over a number of years and decades right now, okay? They have killed more people than you've had in wars like World War II. The cops have killed more people over a course of decades and years, okay? Constantly killing, okay? Now you can say, well, they killed him. Look. If you shoot a guy because a guy has a gun, he's going to shoot you, that's one thing. But if you're shooting a man because he pulls out a wallet or he pulls out or he has a cell phone with his hands up, that's another. So with that said, I agree with my man, Malcolm X, that the police are occupying us. They're occupying our community, and we've got more police in the Black community, but yet how can you have more and more police circling around in our communities, but yet you have so much crime? You should have less crime when you got more damn cops, which tells me the cops are in on it. And like my brother Malcolm X says, and everybody, I'm going to leave you with this tonight. It's been beautiful.
The controlled press, the white press, inflames the white public against Negroes. The police are able to use it to paint the Negro community as a criminal element. The police are able to use the press to make the white public think that 90% or 99% of the Negroes in the Negro community are criminals. And once the white public is convinced that most of the Negro community is a criminal element, then this automatically paves the way for the police to move into the Negro community, exercising Gestapo tactics, stopping any black man who is on the sidewalk, whether he is guilty or whether he is innocent, whether he is well dressed or whether he is poorly dressed, whether he is educated or whether he is dumb, whether he's a Christian or whether he's a Muslim. As long as he is black and a member of the Negro community, the white public thinks that the white policeman is justified in going in there and trampling on that man's civil rights and on that man's human rights. Once the police have convinced the white public that the so-called Negro community is a criminal element, they can go in and question, brutalize, murder unarmed, innocent Negroes, and the white public is gullible enough to back them up. This makes the Negro community a police state. This makes the Negro neighborhood a police state.
It's the most heavily patrolled. It has more police in it than any other neighborhood. Yet it has more crime in it than any other neighborhood. How can you have more cops and more crime? Why? It shows you that the cops must be in cahoots with the criminals.
I want to thank you, brothers, tonight. It's been great. I hope that this video educates people, keeps people woke and aware of what's going on in this society. But I hope very much that you understood the psychology that I broke down tonight about how cops get off when they use this psychology to work on people's minds. Black people, we need to infiltrate this society, get our black butts involved in these systems so that we can turn it on top of its head. With that said, have a good night. Lions Den, thank you. Thank you, Charlie. It's been great, brothers. All right.
Truth. Peace. Truth. Power. Wait a minute. We're students of truth. Power. Truth. Power. Wait a minute. We're students of truth. Truth. Power. Wait a minute. We're students of truth. Power. Truth. Myself. Information, and lions. Welcome. Truth. Power.
This is Information Man and Lion's Den. Welcome.
I am Barack Obama. You're listening to Lion's Den and Information Man.
Thank you, everybody out there. And everybody out there at speaker.com, thank you.